And this is a great lesson for all the entrepreneurs and business owners listening right now. You need to know your numbers. It's the most important thing for you. If you know your numbers, you can scale your business to the moon. If you don't, this is what happens. Their conversion rate dropped from a 32% to 12%, and they had no idea. Our leads quadrupled. We were bringing in leads left and right. We dropped our cost per lead from roughly $42 to $36, kept sub $30 for about 5 months, and scaled during that time to a point where they're spending $20,000 on advertising. And I'm not hearing any complaints. I assume the business is going to hit a $7 to $8 million annual run rate that year. They ended up doing 3.1. They went from 5.4 to 3.1 and spent 2x of what they did in marketing and advertising. And the problem is us as marketers, we're not in the business. Like you said, Charlie, we're not actually able to understand the revenue that's being generated in the back end. So if you guys, again, for entrepreneurs and business owners out there that are listening to this, if you hire a marketing agency, you got to be able to translate. So if you're e-commerce, we got you. We can see all the data. There's no problem whatsoever. If you're a service-based business, if you're a restaurant that has foot traffic, if you are any medical facility that is going from lead to close jobs, anything that has a conversion event that we cannot track on a digital basis, you got to have communication with your marketing agency. You got to be talking to people like Charlie and myself and feeding that information back to us so that we can actually be successful with your advertising dollars.
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we get to discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and in self. Joining us today, we have Charlie Terry, the CEO of Seek. Charlie started Seek in 2016 in London with a focus in the hospitality industry. Since then, the company has grown to an international bespoke digital marketing agency, working with some of the biggest names worldwide, including Disney, Delicious Ella, and many, many more. We are going to discuss how his omni-channel approach to marketing has been bringing positive ROI to his clients for nearly a decade. Thank you, Charlie, so much for joining me today.
Good to be here.
You know, we got to talking a little bit before the call, and I'm already excited, right? The position that you guys have been in starting in 2016, you're about a decade in, and you created a company that has an omni-channel approach, which, you know, I've been in the same mindset for many, many years. If you're going to be a marketer and you're going to focus on growing businesses, you got to be able to pull all the levers that will actually bring revenue to the client. So can you give me a breakdown, Charlie, of kind of how you started Seek, where this whole idea came from, and where you guys sit today?
Of course, good to be here. I mean, when the business first started, it was I don't want to say by accident, but I was in another industry where we had a hospitality focus. So we were looking at recruitment within hospitality, we were looking at events, and we had a small group of company. And ultimately what we found is actually what I was good at, what we were good at the time, was the marketing side of said events or hospitality businesses. So it became almost like a team within a different business. And ultimately I fell in love with it, span it out, and founded Seek back in 2016. I mean, initially, yeah, it was kind of a bit of a side hustle, but it just grew, and it became quite clear that at the time, obviously this is pre-COVID, we didn't have any issue in the hospitality space, but we can talk about that in a bit. But quite quickly, the cool thing about London hospitality at the time, and we were kind of pitched more at the luxury end, is that the network that we got from it was almost just as valuable as the clients' fees themselves. So we ended up almost inheriting other sectors, which, again, it's funny because I don't know about you. Did you start with that actually providing an omni-channel service, or what started for you?
Facebook advertising, right? What got me was attribution-based advertising, where I could track and actually see success in the back end. And just like you know, you start with Facebook ads and it's like, oh, well, now I need to optimize the website. Or now I'm getting traffic and I got the website optimized, but now I need a good follow-up system with email. And now I need to go into Google advertising. I'm assuming the same thing happened with you and Seek.
Yeah, very similar. We primarily started with, funny enough, we came in from an organic social point of view initially, into SEO, then into paid, influencer, email. Like you said, you start looking at retention. I mean, the business today, it's kind of three main divisions, if you like. So we have a strategy team, which is where I sit day to day. And we were talking just before the call about, you know, how hands-on are you? Do you still love it? And luckily I do. Well, we both do. But we have a strategy team, which is quite unique, that our approach there. So very consultative. execution teams, which is, like for like with a lot of agencies, your social media team, paid acquisition and biddable, SEO, influencer, email, etc. And then we have the last part, we call them our growth teams, but ultimately it's where that loyalty, referral, retention, typically the CRM piece comes in, whether that's app, push, email, SMS, all that fun stuff.
Beautiful. And for the entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this right now, that is a full funnel system for growing your business. Strategy, execution for outbound advertising, and then the nurturing of the customer when it comes in. Those 3 steps is what you should be doing today, if you have an agency or not, to ensure that you're actually understanding how you enter the market, going into the market with an aggressive push to actually grow your business, and then not wasting your dollars in the back end by optimizing your communication process. I love this, Charlie. I mean, across the board, I think that we have a lot of like-minded ideologies on what it takes to really grow a business, which isn't easy, right? We know that 90% of businesses are failing in the first 5 years. So, when you created this, and you said you kind of fell into it and it started evolving and it's growing, obviously you must love it and you must have saw a lot of errors in the market to expand and grow to what you are today, right? So when you were diving through this and building your company, did you have a solution that you were trying to push, or a problem that you were really focused on trying to solve in the market that you were seeing from other agencies or other business owners?
Yeah. So initially, I wouldn't say that we actually did have a differentiating factor that was anything different to anyone else in the market. It really was kind of, to be honest, the people that were good technically at the time, especially in London at the time, weren't really getting in front of people. So we were knocking on, our USP was the fact that we were knocking on doors kind of physically at the time. So we really did kind of hustle out the first, I'd say the first million a year, kind of as you grow, you go through these different chapters. It was purely just we were willing to do things that others weren't, to get things that others couldn't, if you like. But as we grew, I'd say the problem that we saw was, especially when you start talking about paid media dollars, is you'd have inquiries, or if we were knocking on these doors and people saying, I'm looking at running some advertising, I'm looking at doing some Facebook ads back in the day, as you said, and they hadn't actually considered that full funnel. They didn't have a CRM in place. They didn't have a good organic base when people are kicking the tires, and that social proof, and the I don't know. They didn't know how their slow website that was hosted in the middle of nowhere is affecting their cost of acquisition, because their cost per clicks are heading up. I don't know. So it was very much bolting in that strategy piece. And funnily enough, when we've hired a new COO recently from a really big network agency, and it was very much, most agencies just do this as part of their kind of retained fee or their onboarding. But what we were actually doing, some of the brands you mentioned, some of the bigger brands, is the reason we got to go in and work with these people is saying, hey, you don't need to retain us. Like, let us just come in and actually give you this. It's a kind of a dedicated, it's a product, really. We productized strategy. And I think that's what was the main driver of growth, kind of to get us past that hump. But yeah, we've got very similar views on an omni-channel approach. You just can't be. I literally said this on a call earlier to a new potential client, and they literally said, "Yeah, we've got this budget. We want to be doing some advertising." I was like, "Oh, are you gamblers? Do you like just going and spinning your money on the roulette wheel?" Well, no, but it's like, well, we've had a look at these other areas. You're definitely not. Is it leaky buckets? Is the easiest way to describe it. You really want to be sure. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make money from, let's say, some form of paid advertising out of the gate. Of course you can, even with a shoddy website, you can. But I feel like the barrier to entry is so low. I mean, if you remember, Kyle, when you started, knowing how old your business is, these were like the early days of Shopify. It was, everything, the barriers to entry was so much harder to do things well. And you didn't have, email automation that was really easy and simple. Now I feel like there's no excuse. Do you feel the same? Do you see that day to day?
And I couldn't agree with you more that I love what you said on the strategy part. I think that's a huge factor, and why you worked with Walmart and Disney. I'm sorry, not Walmart, but Disney specifically. Why you work with big companies like that is because the strategy is such a big deal, and so many people undermine it. Right? I have, in our agency specifically with Kaizen, when we bring clients on, within the first 10 days, we have an Excel sheet that breaks down their 10 competitors. It brings them a full motion board of all the creative. I can tell you in honesty, probably about 20% of the people that pay for our advertising and get this actually go through the sheet. It blows my mind how little people understand how much strategy plays into the success of everything. But as we know, as business owners and entrepreneurs that's listening to us right now, preparation is everything. Setting your business up and organizing it correctly is how you are going to be successful in the long run. So why would you not organize how you enter into the market? And another factor that you said was, it's easy wins. Revenue is easy. Profit's a different story, right? You can walk in and we can run paid ads, and I can get a customer for you in 4 or 5 days. It's going to cost you $500-$600, depending on your industry. Every industry is different, right? But if you look at a restaurant, I can go and I can put a horrible piece of creative up there, and I can start running for a restaurant an advertisement. And will I get customers? Yes, I will. Will my cost per acquisition be so high that I'm going to break even and make zero actual profit on the first sale? I'll probably lose money on the first sale. And the problem is, if you don't have your internal process organized, that customer never comes back, and now you're at a true loss. So you might see revenue, but your profit's gone. And that's how businesses really fail. And I think that's, what you guys are hitting on is building a strategy and then having the execution steps to ensure that you're actually generating profit, not just the revenue. Let's dive in a little bit into who you're doing it for, though. I'm very curious. Are you still working with companies just like Disney, or do you work with mom and pop shops? What is your ideal customer that if they walk through your front door, your team is going to absolutely crush it and grow the business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, funnily enough, I got asked this very recently by this inbound COO as well. Like, who are those perfect individuals? I mean, to your point, and what are the types of businesses that are perfect? So we do work with a lot of big businesses, and the reason for that, if I'm honest, is, as we were discussing before the call, we need to be deploying that level of advertising dollars, for example, in the paid media space, or managing websites with a certain amount of traffic, or whatever those goals are, to stay sharp. That being said, we call them our incubator clients. We actually work with a lot of startups. So they're either, sometimes from a strategy point of view, pre-raise, and we actually form part of that, maybe their investor deck. We probably a couple of months, slightly more actual startups that have raised, that are just coming out of the gates. So literally from kind of their first marketing dollars, if you like. And then, like I said, these bigger businesses that are already there. But just going back to what you just said, when you look at brands that are spending, let's say millions a year, the amount of times big brands, like household names, none of that you've mentioned, because I don't want to get sued, but household names in the US and the UK, that they don't have any link between the margin of their product, especially e-com brands, and their advertising. And it's crazy. We can sometimes just come in and make just that very small change of, this product has a lifetime value of X, this product has a lifetime value of Y. And that's the only change we're making initially. And it's night and day. Because I think it's difficult, especially in the paid advertising world. We banned the kind of phrase of ROAS in some of our reporting meetings, which is pretty extreme. And if you're a paid advertiser, if you're an entrepreneur or someone that doesn't know paid advertising, return on ad spend is a very normal word to hear 100 times a day. But the reality is, your return on ad spend has absolutely no bearing on, like you say, profit margin. So different people have different, ACOS, or advertising cost of sale, or there's all different terms. But as business owners will know, you have to run things by businesses by the numbers, and you've got to take into account, if you're sending out a sample, what does it cost? What does your agency cost? What does the ads cost? What did the creator? It's got to be everything. And it's difficult because agencies, I don't want to say they shy away from that total cost, but it's easy to talk about return on ad spend. But again, Kyle, I don't know how you see this, but when you're doing your bigger paid advertising campaigns, I'm guessing a lot of the revenue you drive, especially if it's a physical business, there is unattributed revenue. You know, there's secondary benefits of running those paid campaigns that aren't necessarily in the Meta, ads manager attribution. How do you see that as a big challenge for you? Or do you have to explain that a lot to clients?
A lot of times, yeah. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. And again, for the entrepreneurs and business owners that are listening to him right now, and they're like, "What do you mean? We're spending advertising dollars, and I have my tracking. I'm going to get a return." The problem that most business owners don't understand is that entering into the market and representing your business in the market and showing you might bring a direct return from the efforts that we see from digital advertising, but it creates a lasting impression in customers that can compound on the success and revenue that comes into your business. Perfect example, we put an ad out there to 100 people. Maybe 10 people click on it and 2 people make a purchase. The 90 people that didn't click still saw your brand, still have a level of interest. And maybe when that problem becomes a big enough issue for them, they then go look up your brand. And next thing you know, in your tracking, it says, "Oh, we get this direct revenue. It didn't come from any of our advertisements." Well, how did they find out about you in the first place? That's the reason why companies like ROAS and Triple Whale and companies that charge well over thousands and thousands of dollars a month just for tracking attribution survive. Is because people are trying to answer the question of lift, of actual lift of your business from your advertising effort. And yeah, I mean, we've talked about so much, Charlie, when it comes to some of our clients about like, okay, we're showing, home improvement's my favorite. Home improvement's my favorite because they think they're so accurate with their leads, right? And we have a direct cost per lead, and then we have a conversion rate of the lead. We have an average ticket order. There's our revenue. And you go into their Google Analytics or you go into their back end of their CRM, and our Google advertising and our Meta advertising shows 250 leads generated. Well, they show 290, and market qualified leads is maybe 210. And they closed, 150 clients from that, and they did X amount of dollars in revenue. And they're looking at those additional leads and saying, "Hey, we're getting all this business organically," and they haven't touched SEO their entire life. There's no SEO happening whatsoever. And it's like, yes, it's not coming from my reporting because with Google, it's last click attribution, meaning they click the ad, they become a lead, it tracks in the ad account. On Meta, we have the 28-day, on the 7-day click, 1-day view. So if someone sees the ad, clicks onto your website, becomes a lead, we can track it. If they click on the ad and become a lead within 7 days or make a purchase, this is for e-commerce and for lead generation, then we can track it into our ad accounts. But there's so much more data out there. Like we did our numbers for 2024, and it was like, okay, we generated over $100-something million in revenue. I have to go back and check on the numbers. $1 million in revenue and actual sales. This many leads and an estimated cost revenue from the leads is Y. And then I looked at the impressions, and it was well over 2.4 billion impressions. So advertisements have been seen. And then I thought, what is that really what we're doing here? As advertisers, yes, our goal is to drive profit, to help the system business get out there and have a system that actually generates profit in their back end, not just revenue. But what we really do is we get that customer in front of the business owners that we're trying to support. And we allow that interaction to happen. And it creates such a bigger thing than just the revenue that we can directly report. So yeah, Charlie, I'm 100% with you. We have the same problem. We talk to clients about it a lot. I like the way that Common Thread Collective, I don't know if you look at them, they're a US-based agency that is really focused on media buying on the e-commerce side. They talk about brand lift and they talk about MER, so marketing efficiency ratio, which a little bit of a cleaner number. You know what I mean? It's a more general number for the listeners out there that have no idea what I'm talking about. Marketing efficiency ratios, instead of taking, hey, I spent $1,000 and I made $2,000, so my return on ad spend is 2. They say my cost for advertising agency costs, my cost for flyers, my cost, everything that had to go into marketing and advertising was, let's say, $1,000, and I generated $2,000 in total revenue to the business before you take out your operating expenses and your COGS. Your total revenue is $2,000. My marketing efficiency ratio is 2. And that's a little bit of a cleaner number because at least it accounts for everything, right? How do you guys see it? What do you guys look like when you're working with a client? What do you determine as true success?
Kyle, sorry, do you mind repeating that question? It just cut just for a second there.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry.
When working with a client, what do you, Charlie, and the team over at Seek determine as real success for the client?
Yeah, it's a good question. Home improvement's a really good one. So we had what we would have called one of these incubator clients 3 or 4 years ago, and they're called Cornerstone. So Quorn, Cornerstone. Now, had a chat with the founders. It was a brother and sister combo, and one showroom in the middle of the UK. Didn't really do any online, no real SEO. Actually, sorry, they did have an SEO agency at the time who were, I was going to swear then, which would have been naughty, but yeah, they were screwing them over. And so we had a look at it, and ultimately, as marketers, we see the data. So whenever we speak to a business, and this is the same for most marketing agencies, there's certain things we love to look at. So if you're an SEO guy, you're looking at kind of the power that website has. Or if you're a paid media guy, might be looking at the creative, you might be looking, whatever the things are. And we're having a look, and we can see the opportunity. They're in the kind of luxury stone flooring and porcelain space. Funnily enough, this office that I'm in now, they've kitted us out. So we're really, really grateful to them for that. But anyway, key thing is they have a showroom with salespeople. So that's a variable, because we might as marketers be driving footfall, are the salespeople closing? Now, I went up there and I went in and, kind of like a mystery shopper. And I'll tell you a story of a client that went the other way in a minute. But the salespeople were so good. The showroom was beautiful. I wasn't even in the market for stone and I wanted to buy. And so you're kind of thinking, okay, these guys really do nail it on their end. Clearly, they need more people being pushed to this business. So in terms of success, we fast forward to today, we're now about to open their 8th showroom. They've added an extra probably $30 to $40 million worth of business. Just I don't want to say just because of the online presence, but online is a massive part of their business now, which didn't exist before. But my point is that they do the business themselves, as in they're doing the right stuff within their industry. So it allows us to effectively be marketers. And I think, again, a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening, I think sometimes you just need to be careful if you own a business and you're not in the marketing agency world. We aren't there to run your business. We're there to do your marketing. And I think sometimes that's the thing that's missed. It's like if revenue's not there, it's like, oh, marketing is the solution. And you mentioned in the home improvement space, we've had on the other side of the fence, they sold windows, and we did end up working with them. We've been working with them for a while now, but had a chat with them. I had a chat with the guy, and I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna give them a call, and couldn't get hold of anyone. The numbers on the website and phones ringing out. Filled out the lead form on the website. No one got back to me. So it's just like, well, they're not gonna get any return from these ads anyway. So do you do any kind of, how often do you do that? Do you mystery shop with your clients ever? I don't want to say to prove that. It's definitely not to catch people out. That's not what we're trying to do. But certainly you need to check that full customer journey. If you're running ads on the front end, what's happening on the back end? You've got to do it.
I mean, we check a lot. There's a normal conversation that we have with our clients of conversion rate of leads, especially in home improvement. E-commerce, it's easy, right? The only thing that we have to look there is for returns, right? If you have a heavy return rate and you have bad reviews coming in, obviously your product is not what you're promising. And then we have to adjust the actual messaging or what we're doing for the business to actually put them in the market correctly. But with home improvement, yeah, it's a necessity. I mean, when we work with clients, we tell them directly, like, if you have an under a 30% conversion rate from lead to closed job, if we bring you a quality lead, it doesn't matter hell or high water, how much work we do or how many people we put you in front of, you're not going to be profitable. You are going to waste your money in advertising. Now, some of them higher tickets, the conversion rate can be a little bit lower. But if we're talking about like a fencer, a roofer, a contractor in a general sense with a residential contractor, they need to see anywhere from a 25 to a 30% minimum conversion rate from lead to closed jobs. Perfect example, I had a client that we took from $300,000 a year to 5.4 million in the matter of 2 years. It was a fencing company, absolutely crushing it. Coming into 2024, they wanted to double down. They knew that there was going to be a little bit more difficult a year. They had higher competition coming in, but they had a bigger team. They had more salespeople. Everything was looking strong. And they wanted to really focus in on growing their company. And we said, okay, let's dive into this. Let's increase ad spends. Let's make sure we have a good offer structure. Let's make sure our numbers are right. What does my cost per lead need to be at? What is your conversion rate of current leads? They were at a 32% conversion rate of lead to closed jobs. If our cost per lead was sub $45, we could scale ad spend. Beautiful. We got our numbers as a marketing agency. We understand what to do to get you in a market. We understand our restrictions on our spend to ensure that we're staying within your profit margins. Well, I contacted them 2-3 months in. They weren't really responding much. Okay, they're super busy. I talked to them. They're really busy. I love it. I have my family contact them and actually get some work done from them. And then they weren't very happy. I started going through the reviews. I started seeing negative reviews. I started looking and contacting them and saying, hey, what is your conversion rate? What are you actually converting on leads? They didn't know. What happened was they did so well in 2023 and they pocketed so much revenue, the owners decided to take a step back a little bit and they lost grasp of their numbers. And this is a great lesson for all the entrepreneurs and business owners listening right now. You need to know your numbers. It's the most important thing for you. If you know your numbers, you can scale your business to the moon. If you don't, this is what happens. Their conversion rate dropped from a 32% to 12%, and they had no idea. Our leads quadrupled. We were bringing in leads left and right. We dropped our cost per lead from roughly $42 to $36, kept sub $30 for about 5 months and scaled during that time to a point where they're spending $20,000 on advertising. And I'm not hearing any complaints. I assume the business is going to hit a $7 to $8 million annual run rate that year. They ended up doing 3.1. They went from 5.4 to 3.1 and spent 2x of what they did in marketing and advertising. And the problem is us as marketers, we're not in the business. Like you said, Charlie, we're not actually able to understand the revenue that's being generated in the back end. So if you guys, again, for entrepreneurs and business owners out there that are listening to this, if you hire a marketing agency, you got to be able to translate. So if you're e-commerce, we got you. We can see all the data. There's no problem whatsoever. If you're a service-based business, if you're a restaurant that has foot traffic, if you are any medical facility that is going from lead to closed jobs, anything that has a conversion event that we cannot track on a digital basis, you got to have communication with your marketing agency. You got to be talking to people like Charlie and myself and feeding that information back to us so that we can actually be successful with your advertising dollars. Charlie, it's a great, awesome topics. Honestly, what you're bringing up and inspecting the sales funnel and working through the process with the client is much more than being a marketer. It's being what I consider a growth expert. You're there to truly grow the client's business, their top line revenue, their overall profit, everything in that company year over year and year. And we're talking about growing here. For all the listeners, understand 90% of businesses fail. We're talking about growing and scaling months to get that 1% of the 1% of success, right? When we're doing over $10 million with a home improvement business, it's not a fly-by-night company. It's really a very, very successful company. If you have the opportunity to work with a company like Disney, who is, a multi-billion-dollar company, I don't know their evaluation, actually. I'm assuming it's close to $1 billion at this point. But a company that has that much value in what they do, you have to make sure that you have your I's dotted and T's crossed and have a system that's going to be successful. Now, I have a question for you, Charlie. You obviously have a huge level of confidence. You know what you're talking about. From someone that's been in this field for 10 years, I can hear in this 10-minute, 20-minute conversation, you're on top of your stuff. What built that confidence for you? Did you have any major failures or challenges or difficulties that you went through as an agency owner or as a marketer that you've gone through in the last 10 years that defined the way that you do things today? Anything that our listeners could resonate with that kind of built you into having the prudence, I would say, the know-how of the right decisions to make when it comes to growing these companies?
Honestly, it ties into the previous point and the point that you just made there. If you're not a practitioner, so as a marketing agency founder, if you're not a true practitioner, then you're not going to have that confidence to sell your product. So obviously that would be advice to someone maybe that's trying to grow a marketing agency, let's say. But it's the same thing with if you're in, like you said, a service-based business, etc. If you're running that business, you need to know what's happening on the ground. And I've seen the demise of very large businesses because of the problem that you just said. And ultimately, because our perfect client is actually someone, that's very, very bullish, really wants to grow. We don't really want clients that want to just kind of stay at the level that they're at. And the reason is to your point, is where does the confidence come from? Is we're held accountable. That our clients are bullish. They really want to grow. So we just can't afford to take our finger off the pulse. And why do I have the confidence? It used to be because I was the one doing it, in the account every day. Now it's because the team's exceptional. And, it's not always been that way. It's been difficult to get the team that we have today. We've been through, I call them like chapters rather than, times of hardship. But yeah, we've been through different chapters. And the team is what gives me the confidence now. That, people always say, when you speak to marketing agencies, like, what case studies have you got? Anyone can make up any old bullshit on a case study. Like it's we did when we first started. I'd never lie about numbers, but I'd definitely say that I had experience in a sector that I did. I always used to, we know the sector. Like just because I've been to a gym doesn't mean I know how to acquire gym customers. Do you know what I mean? But I'd be the customer of these places, but we didn't know how to market them. Yeah. Now, 9 years on, 2016, I think it's 8 years. Like, of course you have those case studies, and that's what gives you the kind of, I think what that gives you is the confidence to push back, because when you work with these bigger companies, you've got they've got some high paying executives that are marketers, and they do know their stuff most of the time. But the bigger the company, unlikely to still be a practitioner, and that's why they're coming to an agency. Really, I mean, why come to an agency versus doing it in house? Well, more visibility of data. We are literally just spending more money on behalf of more people. Number two, we cannot, if we're getting bad results, we're going to get fired because we are a service provider. So it keeps you sharp. If you're in an in-house role at a big company, maybe like some of the ones that we've described, you can get away sometimes for years in those roles as marketers, especially if it's a publicly traded company. But the majority of our clients aren't Disney size. They're not. I'd probably say the majority of our client base is in dollars. I would probably say between the 20, 30 mil to 150, 200 mil, I'd probably say is the majority of the client base. And if we are working with a multinational, let's say, or a really, really big brand, typically we're treating them like one of those kind of SMEs anyway. We're treating them like a small brand. So Disney, for example, I think one of the benefits of being omni-channel is ultimately you can enter into these businesses through different routes. So Disney, it was actually the influencer route that we went in through, and then kind of almost educated them that it was a top of funnel, an awareness driving piece for paid. So you can kind of enter in different ways, but initially it was a massive challenge for us being an omni-channel agency, because we were, literally jack of all trades.
It becomes so difficult because no matter how much you think you can hire that kid off Fiverr or your cousin to build your website, it is not easy to create successful assets. One of my favorite quotes that I forget who said it, but there's that you have, and you only can pick two. You can have it fast, you can have it cheap, or you can have it good, right? You only can pick two. So if you want it fast and you want to be cheap, it ain't going to be good. If you want it good and you want it fast, it's not going to be cheap. And that's simply the process you have to go through, because the details that are needed to actually execute on a system to move customers, psychologically influence them, and put your business in a place that will actually move them in a way that takes their money out of their pocket and into your business is not an easy practice. Like we've said multiple times on this interview so far, why 90% of these businesses fail. It's because it's not an easy system to do. Charlie, you talked a little bit about some of the difficulties that you come through and kind of the process that you were just hitting on how being an omni-channel really creates some difficulties for you because you have to start being an expert in all of these categories. can we turn a little bit more to your wins? I want to hear about some of the massive successes that you're seeing either in the industry right now, where you guys are in England, or what you guys are doing as a company at Seek to really explode some of your clients.
100%. So only because we've talked about omni-channel before, I'm not going to go through that again, but I definitely think that is the magic. Like when you're really truly omni-channel, you see the whole playing field, and effectively you can hunt for that cheap acquisition. I mean, honestly, the success, if I look across our client base and I say, what's the real differentiator of the clients that are growing the most, is we genuinely are just working with the best brands. And what I mean by that is they are in a growth market. They are in a trending market. So I'm sitting in London now in the UK, and the fastest, I'm a rugby man. That's my sport. However, which isn't growing because their marketing is awful as a sport globally. But paddle or paddle tennis, paddle is the fastest growing sport in this country right now. So very early on, and we wanted to sign the best brands in that space. So one of our clients called Paddle Social Club, it's a paddle club, launched one site, then the next site, and again, growing. We just had a UK rapper called Stormzy invest in Paddle Social Club last week, which is cool. But again, we're basically jumping on trends, and it's the same thing, wellness in the UK, not just in the UK, but across the world, wellness brands, kind of supplementation, all this type of stuff, that's where our massive wins are coming, is in sectors that are in growth. And again, I'll be honest with you, the biggest loss we ever had, I know we're talking about wins now, but was COVID, because we had a lot of hospitality exposure. It was like 40-50% of our business at that time. And, everything shut down. Some, from an F&B point of view, moved online, but it taught us to stay diversified from a sector point of view, which is the second reason why I think we're winning, is because if you're working with a luxury hotel brand, let's say, and you look at their Instagram account, I mean, if you're a business owner in your industry now, have a look at what everyone else is doing, which you probably have. Most of the time, everyone's just copying each other with slightly better creative. So where we're getting the real wins is going into a luxury hotel brand and saying, hey, what's the best thing that's working in fashion, in sport, in food and beverage, like things that aren't necessarily with direct competitors to that in that particular sector, and effectively taking the best from another sector and bringing it in. And I'd say that's probably the differentiator. One of our biggest growth clients the last year is a company called Ennismore. Ennismore's a hotel group. It's probably the fastest growing hotel group on the planet. And we launched couple of hotels for them this year in Ibiza, which was cool. So I got to go out there and sample the product, because you've got to do it. It's one of the benefits of having a marketing agency. It's not good for your waistline. You get sent a lot of food. You get to go to a lot of hotels. You get to get a lot of stuff. But we're not marketing those hotels like hotels. It's taking I'd say, to summarize, a cross sector approach to creative and to strategy. So not copying everyone and being boring is a short.
Charlie, again, another resonation point between you and I, and omni-channel, industry agnostic. It's the same structure that I had, and the core, you said it a little bit differently. I've always said that my goal was to find the common denominators of success from business to business to business and bring it back. I have it for a selfish reason. I'm a professional paintball player personally, and I want to go and I want to change the marketing of professional paintball, because just like rugby, you probably didn't even know professional paintball existed. And most of the listeners right now are like, really? What? That's a thing? That's what I get at every restaurant. But at the same token, understanding the variations of where success really comes from, where we grab attention, where we develop an educational pipeline to get people to love the business, where we create inspiration using our creative. And doing that in multiple different categories allows you, as an agency owner that's omni-channel and industry agnostic, to have so many bullets in your gun that you can come at a business that's been failing, going from agency to agency that was niche and supposed to be perfect for your category, but couldn't find success because they're just living in this box. They think this is the only way to do things. Equal to winning home improvement and take it into something like, say, fashion. That if home improvement's big about developing a referral network, fashion doesn't do that very well. You can correlate those informations over to see this is just where success is. This is where revenue comes. Why not do this in your industry? No one else does it. Great, you got a blue ocean. Let's run with it, right? So,
can I say something a little bit controversial? And it's nice to do that now and again to get a little bit of a nice clip for social media. People are probably going to hate me in my industry for saying this. And I've actually got friends that have agencies that do this, so I'm gonna say it. If you're a business owner and you've got a specialist agency in your sector, and that's all they do, run a mile. It is not the way to go. And I've got friends with specialist marketing agencies in their sector. They do really, really well. You mentioned like health clinics and things like that. I've got a friend with an amazing agency. They are really, really good. But run a mile, because 9 times out of 10, what if, let's go for a hypothetical, the cost of acquisition skyrockets in that industry, across their whole industry? What the fuck are they going to do? They don't know anything else.
70% of them, because now everybody's cost goes up. Who can actually maintain, right?
Yeah, and they're not going to have any fresh ideas. They're not going to have seen the patterns in other industries and bring them in. Again, that is completely biased because I have an omni-sector kind of approach, or a cross-sector approach. But I honestly, if I owned a business, I wouldn't touch a specialist agency with a barge pole, because they can find themselves in deep, deep water when the whole sector is in the shit. But
Charlie, man, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's definitely going to be clipped, and we're going to use that on social media, because I think everyone needs to know that. I think everyone needs to know that if you do not, the whole point of having a marketer is having someone that has a creative ideology of how to actually enter the market and bring you revenue. And if you're in a box, you can't be creative. If you only do one thing, you can't be creative. I could talk to you all day long, Charlie. I'm confident about it, but I want to make sure for our listeners out here, we move into the direction of the future, because I think that you'll have great insight of what is going to happen and what we're moving into. So we talked a little bit of how you created Seek, what you do today, but let's talk about where it's going. Not so much Seek. I am assuming that you guys are continuing to be your omni-channel, industry agnostic, and kick ass and take names for all the clients that you have. But I'm curious, with all the information that you have, with all the businesses that you work with, and understanding how customers really do spend their money, because that's the data we have. How do you see the marketing and advertising industry changing in, say, the next 3 to 5 years?
So the default answer is going to be the impact that AI has on the marketing industry. It's undeniable. And we were chatting before the call about some crazy stuff that we're able to do with AI right now. And we're a very AI aware and enabled agency. But I truly believe, even sooner than 2 to 3 years, but I believe it's gonna be the big differentiator over the next 10, is 2 things are gonna be the things that we're gonna double down on. So number 1 is genuinely being a consultant, and as humans, and understanding the business, being part of the business. And I'm not saying that AI won't also be part of everybody's business, but that level of understanding, the nuance, I mean, what if you, as a service provider, you need to understand the business. Let's say the founder of the business that you're servicing. What are their goals? Like, do they want to be able to go on holiday and not be bothered with fires? Okay, well, yeah, we can provide that. Let's get that trust there. Let's get do you know what I mean? It's those nuances. So consulting and a consultative approach for our industry, I genuinely believe the people that are just executing, yeah, I mean, again, AI is going to completely change the way we do this. I think you could suffer if you're not looking at that consultative approach. The second thing, which again, I think AI will really help identify but it will not execute is partnerships. And we're not a traditional kind of public relations agency. And within the UK market, typically kind of brand partnerships typically sit with the public relations team. But for us, being able to understand, and the data that we have as marketers, the marketing value of one business and another, and bringing that together and creating effectively needle moving partnerships. And I don't just mean like an influencer collaboration. I honestly mean business to business as well. I think they're going to be the areas that if you are truly doing good work in that space, it will be a big differentiator, because everyone's going to have access to the same level of AI capabilities. That's a default. It shouldn't be ignored, but I just feel like anything that is consultative, partnership based, which is very human, I do feel like that's going to be the main differentiator over the next three years.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think as consumers, not just as the agency and the clients work together, but I think consumers in general are going to hold things a lot closer to their chests, right? I laugh today when I talk to clients that don't own their email. Russell Brunson's been screaming this for 20 years, right? Own your email list, own your internal data. And I think that he was just well above his time in understanding that data is going to become more restricted and customers are going to become more close to the chest. Clients, for us as agency owners, are going to care more about their process. They're going to care more about how they feel being integrated into the system that put their business on the map. So love that. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think that developing that connection, that person to person connection, will only become more valuable as AI becomes more apparent, because we'll have less of it, right? And supply and demand, baby, supply and demand. So I love this. Okay. This is my favorite question. I got two for you, but this is my favorite question in the podcast. How do you find your Kaizen? For the business owners and the entrepreneurs listening to this right now, Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% progression every day in both business and in self. It's a process that we put ourselves through as entrepreneurs. It's a process that we put ourselves through as individuals, constantly push ourselves to be better mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and be able to excel ourselves around us at small intervals every single day. So, Charles, my question to you is, throughout the process of you growing your business, throughout the process of you and yourself as a human the last 10 years in this agency, how do you find your constant improvement? How do you find your Kaizen?
It is an amazing question, because it's so open. And yeah, I know we resonate on a lot of points. And the fact that you're a professional paintballer doesn't surprise me that you take that Kaizen approach. You know, if you're, you know, I have a talent management agency with a co-founder. She was a Olympic rower. I played professional rugby. You know, if you sport, you know, if you want to play at a high level, you're adopting that from a very young age naturally. In the business now, how do we find it? Honestly, I genuinely believe that the majority of the improvement, and I know we were just talking about AI, and I think the democratization of information sharing, especially within an agency environment, will be really, information will be a lot more accessible. You know, all the transcripts from every single client call that I've been taking for the last 2 years will be all into our own bespoke GPT. Like, you know, there's so many things we can do. But for me, to get that continuous improvement, it really is, how can we foster a culture of not just learning, but like information sharing physically amongst the team. And in the age of, you know, remote work, I mean, as an agency, we're very, very physical. Like that we're all in the same room the majority of the time. And if we're not, we're on calls, like just like this all the time, collaborating. And for me, that's where that growth comes. And honestly, we're all very similar people in our agency. We all genuinely want to be better at what we're doing and want the best for the people that we're working with. And I was explaining it to a friend the other day, like, what's the point of doing it if you don't want to improve? Just give up. You know, what's the point? You know, you've got to be working with people that want more. That goes back to our perfect client, someone that really, really wants to grow. But that, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but for me, it's actually about the other people in the room, the other people I'm working with, the clients we're working with. It's because I come from that sporting background, I'm always trying to be better at kind of everything I do. But actually, I feel like I can grow more and sustainably if I do it with others that have a similar mindset. Otherwise, you can entrepreneurship, especially if you've got entrepreneurs listening, can be a very lonely place. You know, you need to surround yourself with people that have a growth mindset. I think it's about the other people in the room.
So important as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, not just the staff that you bring in, because that makes you want to love or hate your business, right? It's the social circle that you create. It's the employees that you have around you. It's the people that you converse with. It is the ability for you to bounce ideas and be around people that will push you to be better. I couldn't find a better way to find a Kaizen than finding people around me that also want that 1% improvement every single day. So Charlie, I mean, you have built something masterful with Seek. You obviously are on top of the ball of understanding of marketing, advertising, the growth of your clients, as well as the growth of yourself and the people around you. Super exciting to have this conversation. I have one last bonus question for you. Have you ever read the book Atlas Shrugs?
No.
Atlas Shrugs is a book, massive book. I don't know if I'd recommend it. Very, very big book, but it's a book that the concept is incredible. The concept of Atlas Shrugs that says that Atlas is you, me, the entrepreneurs listening to this right now. We are the people that put the world on our shoulders and move the world forward every single day. Without business, these ideas and concepts are just ideas. Even if you want to impact the world yourself on a small degree and just do it without running a business, it doesn't change the world. To truly change the world, you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to be a business owner that puts the pressure and the stress of the employees, of the process on your shoulders and still moves the world forward every single day. The book Atlas Shrugs talks about what would happen to a world where you, me, and all the other entrepreneurs in the world just shrugged off our businesses. We walked away from our companies. We canceled our marketing agency. You walked away from your company. I walked away from mine. The home improvement businesses, you know, the materials are still out there, but all of the owners walked away. The restaurant still exists, but nobody's running them anymore. My question to you, Charlie, if today Atlas shrugged and we all walked away from our businesses, what would be the first company that you would start tomorrow?
Oh, what a question. He didn't give me this before either. This has been sprung on me. A marketing agency.
I love it. I love it. No, it's a great answer. It's a great answer. Why? Because for all the listeners out there, the people that have gone through this podcast so far and they've listened to this whole thing, it means that if you have the opportunity to talk to Charlie and connect with him, even if the world lit on fire and started over, he would still be out there trying to grow your business. He'd still be out there trying to evolve these companies and take the steps forward to help people in their ideas and concept, make them into reality and make them into something that feeds your family, that grows your life, that grows your business. Charlie, it's been absolutely incredible talking to you. I loved every moment of this podcast. For the listeners that have stayed with us through this whole time, first, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But Charlie, can you tell them how they're going to contact with you if they're looking to work with you in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, please. LinkedIn's good. Charlie R for Romeo, Terry, Charlie R, Terry. Little tip for anyone with LinkedIn. If you put your initial after your name, Charlie R, if anyone's ever emailing you off of some sort of bot, you know. So it's like, hi, Charlie R. Okay, this is just a bot. So anyway, Charlie R, Terry. And Seek is C for Charlie, Echo Kilo marketing on Instagram. It's probably best to have a look at what we're doing. But yeah, drop me a DM. And honestly, Kyle, it's been even pretty cool. Good to speak to someone with a very similar philosophy and really look forward to catching up again.
100%. All that information that Charlie just said is going to be below in the descriptions. You guys make sure you check him out. You're trying to grow your business. And as he said, if you're aggressive with it, if you really want to grow your company, reach out to Charlie and the team at Seek and connect with them. Again, thank you for sitting through this. Charlie, thank you so much for your time. And for the listeners, we'll see you on the next one.